How's it going, guys? Nate here with another episode of Blades and Boom. Today we're going to be going over another blade. It will be a discontinued knife, but they're readily available on places like eBay. Let's open this up here. I was lucky enough to get one that was still in the box with all the literature. Now this is the CRKT Rollock, which is based off of a 1975 knife known as the Rollocks with an X knife. This one though, the Rollock, was designed by the CRKT team and Alan Elshowitz. Let's go ahead and look at how this opens real quick. This is a pretty unique knife, and as you can see already, there's a track running underneath this scale. In order to open it, you have to push down on the spine of the blade, and then it slides up until it locks into position. Now, this one's discontinued, but like I said, it is available online still through used markets. Let's go ahead and get into the stats real quick, and then we'll take a closer look at this knife. The steel they used for the blade here is an AUS 6, which is hardened to 55 to 57 HRC. It's a polished 2.25 inch flat ground blade with a drop point. I will mention real quick also, this is a chisel ground blade, chisel sharpened bevel on there. And it does have some really nice jimping on the top here, extremely aggressive actually. The handle itself has a polymer scales on it with stainless steel frame, and the lockup type is known as the Rollock, which in my opinion seems extremely sturdy. It works similar to that of like a lockback knife. So looking at this design here, oh, my blade's extremely dirty. It does have that nice polished blade, which I personally am a fan of, and it does work extremely well actually. So to open it, you simply push down and slide up with your thumb. And the nice thing about this is you can actually use it without fully deploying it. So say you're opening a package or whatever, you can simply slide it up a little bit, cut the tape, and snap it back down real quick. Now, this knife is extremely lightweight. It only weighs 2.23 ounces with a handle length of 3.5 inches. It's really easy to carry. This clip here, at first, I didn't like it. When I first was looking over this knife, I honestly thought I was going to lose it. It's a pretty lightweight clip, and it's really smooth. I thought it was going to slip right off of my pocket. That being said, I never experienced that for the 2 weeks that I was carrying this for the review. I really like this knife actually overall, even with that strange and a little bit slower way of opening. The durability of it, and we'll get into this when I take this apart to show you how this actually works, is extremely good. This would hold up really well to spine wax because, as you can see, when you do snap it into place, it moves downward. So if you were to spine whack it, it's going to push it into its locked position even further. That being said, even if you do push down, it locks forward a bit as well as down. So pushing forward is not going to put stress on that, or undue stress on that locking mechanism in there. Now, I forgot to show this earlier. Unlike, or similar to the lockback design, you have this lever right here which lifts up, which unlocks the blade. This knife though, it is tip down carry only, which makes more sense with this mechanism because when you pull it out of your pocket, it's in the proper way to open it. Unlike this buck here, which you would want tip down so that when you pull it out of your pocket, you can flip it real quick into the open position. This one, the quickest way is to have it tip down, which is a little bit different. I'll also mention, if you notice, there are no threaded holes anywhere else on this knife for that pocket clip. So if you're a lefty, it's going to sit kind of weird in your pocket. For righties, you probably won't notice anything different. Now, there is a reason for that, having only that position, and we'll talk about that when I pull off the scales and we take a look inside and how this works. So on that note, let's go ahead and pull it apart actually. Alright, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and push these screws back in here. And the first thing you're going to notice is that this plastic piece here actually holds that retention spring here for the rest of the knife. So if you do take this apart, say you do want to change the side that the clip is, that the clip is on, and you decide to drill and tap your own holes, be careful when you're taking that apart, because these two screws that hold that clip in also hold this plastic piece, so which is under spring tension. When I first took this apart the first time, that actually shot out, and it was an awful mess. But yeah, you can see the lock bar here, similar to the way that a back lock would work. The blade rides within these grooves. There's a set on either side of the knife, and this spring actually serves two purposes, which is why it is up in the position that it is. You'll notice that when you go to push down on the spine, you'll see that blade start to flex. What that does is it keeps some tension on the blade itself to prevent it from opening in your pocket. Simple design. I don't know if it's the most effective they could have used, because it is pretty easy to open that up if you do want to, but it is a simple design and it does work well enough. Now, once this is in the upward position, these two pegs that are on either side, I guess there's 4 pegs technically, but they protrude on either side and it rides within that groove right here. At the very front, it works just like a liner lock, or not a liner lock, a back lock, where it pushes forward and then that lock will snap into place right behind it. That being said, it may actually be a stronger design than a back lock, because it is pushing back against it, which you typically don't put a lot of force on the knife in that direction, unless you're probably using it wrong. There's very few knives that you would want to. In addition to that, if you do look at this design, it is a self-adjusting design. This blade does have that slanted section that the lock bar presses up against. So as that wears, this lock bar is simply going to move up further and further until it just simply can't anymore. That being said, I don't see any reason why that's going to wear that much, since it is on a rounded corner. So that's pretty much it as far as this works, guys. It's an extremely simple design, even though it looks a lot different than your normal knives. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, and then we'll cover, my overall thoughts on this knife. Alright guys, so we've got it all back together again. So let's go ahead and talk about the durability of this knife real quick. I have kind of mentioned it already, but this knife is going to hold up extremely well to spine wax, especially for its size and weight class, because of the way that lock works. Both forward pressure and pressure against the back of the knife, the spine of the knife, is going to be handled very well against that lock, and it's going to help to prevent it from wearing down. Now, I don't see this failing anytime soon, but that being said, as you saw inside, there are tracks that need to stay clear, as well as some other things. This is a very closed off design, because you do need that lock bar that runs the length of the knife. So there's no standoffs, there's no flow through design. And when I received this, there was no dirt inside. When I carried it, it didn't seem to attract pocket lint or anything, and I assume that's because this blade pretty much closes up a lot of that area where lint would get into, which is good. That being said, if lint, mud, or other stuff gets in there, it may not open and close as smoothly as it does without. All right, let's go ahead and talk about that blade again real quick. As I said, it is that AUS 6 steel, which is not a bad steel. It takes an extremely nice edge where it cuts really well. And I haven't sharpened this since I was using it. I did sharpen this when I got it, but since then I have not sharpened it. Every time I hit those saw edges. Now that is a downside of this knife. This is a light duty gentleman's style folder. That being said, it doesn't have a lot of blade length. It isn't quite split in half, and I do like the straight edge blade, the flat edge, more than I like the serrations. But if you do prefer that straight edge area, it does take away, and being such a small blade, you saw as I was cutting the paper, those get stuck pretty easy. Even though my blade itself is extremely sharp, I still was getting caught up on those, which was ripping the paper instead. Those are harder to sharpen, obviously, because they are serrations, and I did not bother to sharpen those when I got it, which is why they're not cutting as well. They are sharp enough to cut. I was cutting 550 paracord the other day, and they work just fine for that, but not as sharp as they could be. Let's go ahead and talk about the cool factor. This is a knife that when people see it open, they want to know what it is. It's just the way it is, which is kind of cool. It's a fun knife, and it's cool to show around. I think it's got a great deal of cool factor because it is such a unique design. So that leads us into the value. Do you like a cool knife like this? Don't you like a cool knife like this? Right now you can purchase them for around $30, give or take, depending on where you get it and who's selling it. That being said, the MSRP on this was $40, so it's actually a little bit cheaper than it was when it was in production. So if you like one, pick one up quickly while they are still really easy to find, because as they get older, chances are they're not going to be sold as often. So at that $30 price point, I think they're a great value. The edge takes on a razor sharp blade edge, which is great. Especially in a small folder, you do want that extremely sharp at all times, just so that you get the most work out of that little bit of edge space. It seems to hold that edge extremely well too. As I said, I've used this relatively heavily for a couple of weeks, and it's still just about as sharp as it was when I started. And I will say I'm not as good at putting an edge on things as others are. So for that to hold an edge and for it to be as sharp as it is when I'm putting that edge on there, it says a lot about that blade steel. So would I recommend this knife? Yes, 100% yes, I would recommend this knife. This is a super cool knife. It virtually disappears on the side of your pocket when you do put it on because it is so lightweight and small. It's a little bit weird to close, and it does have that chance of getting gunked up inside, but those are relatively small points in my opinion when you take into consideration the cool factor, its use as a lightweight EDC knife, and so on and so forth. So guys, if you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe, and if you have any questions or you have any suggestions for me, please make sure to leave a comment below. I'll take a look at those, see if I can't get any other knives that you guys want to see on this channel in my hands to review. Have a great one, guys.